back to the FDTM podcast, your guide to getting the right product to the market at the right time. This week, we are going to focus on FDTM core teams, how to organize laterally, cross-functionally to achieve fast-to-market successes. Note that there are 3 key roles on an FTTM core team: the integrator, the system architect, and the chief engineer. Teams that get to market with the right product at the right time include people that fulfill these roles. Slow teams organize functionally around departmental silos and lack clear end-to-end product ownership. This podcast will dig deep into why FTTM teams work in contrast to typical or normal new product development organizing structures.
It's fantastic to be here. And this topic is, it's so critical. You can have the best technology in the world, the smartest people, but if they're organized in a way that creates friction, well, you're just not going to be fast. It's as simple as that.
That's a perfect place to start. And to guide our deep dive today, we're leaning on a really rich body of what's called lateral works research. But before we even get into the solutions, like this core team idea, I want to start with a frustration I think pretty much everyone listening has felt. It's about a word.
Oh, which word are we talking about?
The word team. Just think about it. We use it for everything in the corporate world. There's the executive team, you've got the product launch team, the process improvement team.
A holiday party planning team.
Exactly. We just slap that label on any group of people who show up in the same calendar invite. But so often it doesn't feel like a team. It feels like you're just in a room with a bunch of strangers doing your own thing. Why do we call it a team if it doesn't act like one?
It's a great question. And you're right. It's a semantic trap we fall into. Calling a group of people a team doesn't magically make them one. And the lateral works research really hits this hard right at the beginning.
What's their take on it?
They have this fantastic phrase. They say that most of these groups we call teams, especially the ones in slow product development organizations, are actually just masquerading as reconfigured functional silos.
Masquerading. I love that. It's like everyone's wearing the same team jersey, but they're all playing a different sport.
That's a perfect analogy. You're all physically in the same room, but mentally, your allegiance, your focus, it's still back in your functional department, your silo. So the real mission for us today is to, pull back that curtain, to really understand how the truly fast teams, what this research calls integrated core teams, operate so differently. Because it's not just a small tweak. It's a fundamental shift in how they think about everything: ownership, time, money, the works.
Okay, so to really get the cure, we have to diagnose the disease first. Let's talk about this illusion of the normal team. What is actually going on in those conference rooms that makes everything grind to a halt? The research points to something called the multiplexing issue.
Yes. This is the silent killer of speed in most organizations. In what we're calling a normal team, if you walk up to any member and ask them, so what are you working on? They never give you just one answer.
Right. You get a list, a long list.
You get a laundry list. 10 projects, 15 projects. I've seen it go as high as 25. The person is multiplexed, like a TV channel, across dozens of different initiatives at the same time.
And how can anyone possibly be effective doing that? The context switching alone must be just brutal.
It's impossible. Your brain just isn't wired for it. But companies do it because they're chasing this illusion of resource efficiency. They want every single person to be 100% busy 100% of the time.
Keep everyone busy.
Keep them busy. But the result for the project is a complete disaster. First, just scheduling a simple meeting becomes a Herculean task. You open up the calendar and it's a sea of purple. There isn't a free hour for the next 3 weeks where everyone can meet.
That is a painfully familiar feeling. And then when you finally do get everyone in the room, if you can.
If you can, yeah. Half of them are on their laptops answering emails for their 14 other projects. They're physically present but mentally absent. And because nobody's had time to actually sync up beforehand, the meeting just degrades into what the research calls these rat hole technical debates.
Oh, I know these well. This is when the 2 electrical engineers go off on a 45-minute tangent about some obscure capacitor.
Exactly.
While the marketing person and the finance person are just sitting there, their eyes completely glazed over, wondering what this has to do with anything.
It's a colossal waste of 90% of the brain power in that room. And it all stems from this lack of a shared singular focus. And that leads directly to the next big symptom of the normal team. The wall.
The throw it over the wall methodology, classic.
It's the default behavior of functional silos. The engineering team, they finish their part of the design. They don't really talk to manufacturing to see if it's easy to build or if the tolerances make sense. They just bundle up the CAD files and poof, they throw it over the wall.
Done. Not my problem anymore.
Precisely. Then manufacturing tries to build it. And of course they can't. The design is impossible. So they have to throw it back over the wall.
And all this time, the project schedule is just slipping day by day.
Tick, tock.
Yeah.
And then let's say they finally get it built. What do? They throw it over the wall to sales and marketing. And sales looks at this thing and goes, wait a minute. The customer said they wanted this to be lightweight. This thing is a brick. Who are we supposed to sell this to? It's a sequential, disjointed, and incredibly slow process.
This really gets to another core concept in the lateral works research, which is this idea of vertical versus lateral orientation. And I think this is key because it explains why people act this way. It's not because they're bad employees. It's the system they're in, right? They're responding to incentives.
You are 100% right. It's all about incentives. In a normal team, your orientation is vertical.
Mm-hmm.
Just picture a standard org chart. You've got your columns: engineering, marketing, finance, and so on. A team member's primary loyalty, their primary focus, is pleasing the person at the top of their column, their functional boss.
Of course. That's the person who does your performance review. That's who decides your bonus and your promotion.
Exactly. And that's where you get this huge metric mismatch. The research shows that in these slow, functional organizations, something like 60 to 70% of an employee's performance evaluation is based on their functional excellence.
So on how well they did their little piece of the puzzle.
Their little piece. And only a tiny fraction, if anything, is tied to whether the overall project was a success.
Let me just play that back to make sure I get it. So if I'm a software engineer and I write the most elegant, bug-free code imaginable, but the product it's for launches 6 months late and totally bombs in the market, I might still get a great review and a bonus.
In a purely vertical organization, yes, absolutely, because you did your functional job perfectly. The failure of the product, that's somebody else's problem. And this is why people retreat into their silos. It's the safest place to be. You protect your function instead of optimizing the product.
That is a terrifying thought if you're a CEO. It's like you've got this whole army, but every soldier is just focused on polishing their own boots and nobody's paying attention to the actual battle.
It's a perfect analogy. And it's exactly why this FTTM integrated core team model is so radical in comparison. It completely flips that orientation sideways.
Okay, let's pivot to the solution then. Let's talk about the integrated core team. How does the lateral works research define this? Because it sounds like it's not just a better meeting, it's a whole different kind of animal.
It is a different species. It all starts with that lateral shift. If the normal team is vertical, the core team is horizontal. It cuts across the silos. And the very first difference, and this is usually the one that makes traditional managers the most nervous, is dedication.
Right. We're not talking about those 15 projects anymore.
Not even close. In an FTTM world, a core team member is dedicated to one project, maybe two, max. But for a really critical, must-win breakthrough product, it's 100% dedication. Your whole job is this project.
I can just hear the VPs listening to this having a panic attack. 100%. I can't spare my best engineer for a single project. I need them on everything.
It feels incredibly expensive from that resource efficiency mindset we talked about. But it's an investment in something far more valuable, which is flow efficiency, getting one important thing done and done fast. When you have that level of dedication, the whole mindset of the team changes. The research uses this really powerful analogy. The team starts to act like a startup.
A startup inside the larger company. A little bubble of speed.
Exactly. Think about how a founder of a startup behaves. They don't just, code their feature and then clock out. They're obsessed with everything, the marketing, the sales, the funding. In a core team, the members are treated like they have equity. They are owners of the outcome, not just employees renting a spot on the org chart.
And the scope of that ownership is huge. It's not just design this one part.
Oh, no. Yeah. It's massive. They own the product from the very beginning, the fuzzy front end, where it's just an idea on a whiteboard, all the way through development, through launch, to what's called first customer ship, or FCS.
Okay, so concept to shipping.
But the research actually pushes it even further. The best teams, they say, should track the product all the way to break even.
Break even? That's a business metric, a financial metric, not a technical one.
Precisely. And that's the point. It forces the team to think like business owners. It forces them to constantly ask the question, when does this product actually pay back the investment we're making in it? That changes how you make every single decision. You're not just trying to hit a ship date anymore. You're trying to build a profitable business. It's a game changer.
I love that. It connects the engineering work directly to the financial success of the company. Now, what about the integrated part of the name? How does this team actually get put together?
This is another key difference. A normal team often starts with just a few engineers. And then, maybe they add a marketing person later on, and manufacturing gets pulled in right at the very end when it's almost too late.
Right, the throw it over the wall sequence.
The FTTM team is cross-functional from day one. Before a single line of code is written, you have marketing, engineering, manufacturing, finance, maybe quality, procurement. Everyone with a major stake in the product is at the table from the very beginning.
The research used a really great visual analogy for this. They said the core team is like the sun.
Yes, exactly. The core team is the sun. It's the center of gravity for the project. And then you have various sub-teams, like maybe the software team or the mechanical engineering team or the factory ramp-up team, and they orbit around the core team like moons. The core team sets the direction, holds the vision, and provides the gravitational pull that keeps everything aligned.
And for that gravity to really work, you need proximity, right?
The laws of physics tell us gravity gets weaker with distance. You were leading me right to the next point. The physical dynamic is absolutely critical. The fastest teams co-locate, they sit together, they take over a conference room and turn it into a dedicated war room or team room. The walls are covered with the schedule, the key metrics, the customer feedback.
But what about now? In a world with so much remote and hybrid work, is that still practical?
It's more important than ever. You just have to adapt the tools. If you can't be physically in the same room, you create a virtual team room, a dedicated Slack channel, a persistent video call, a shared digital whiteboard. But the goal is identical. You want to create informational osmosis. When you're sitting next to the supply chain person, you overhear them on the phone dealing with a part shortage. You learn about a problem 3 days before it would have ever shown up on a formal status report. You can just turn your chair and solve it in 5 minutes.
Instead of the endless cycle of emails and scheduling meetings for next Tuesday.
Exactly. And this focused environment, this bubble, it serves one other huge purpose. It's a shield. A major goal of the core team structure is to eliminate, or at least minimize, the interrupts from the host organization.
And the host organization that's the functional management, the broader company.
Right. It's the VPs, the department heads, the endless all-hands meetings that aren't relevant, the constant, hey, can you just take a quick look at this other thing for 5 minutes? Requests. The core team structure is designed to protect the team from that noise so they can stay in a state of flow and actually get the work done.
Okay, so we've got this dedicated, co-located, startup-style team, but who are the actual people on it? You said in the intro, and the research emphasizes this, that it's about roles, not just job titles. That seems like a really important distinction.
It's a crucial distinction. On your business card, you're still a senior mechanical engineer. That's your functional job. That's your home base. But on the project, you have a project role. And that role defines what you do for the team, how you contribute to the project's success, regardless of your functional background.
And the intro highlighted 3 of these roles as being particularly key. The holy trinity, so to speak. The integrator, the system architect, and the chief engineer. Let's break these down, because this really feels like the engine room of the FTTM model.
It is. They're the 3 legs of the stool. Let's start with role number 1. The program manager. But a better term, the one the research uses, is the systems integrator.
I'm glad you made that clarification, because when I hear program manager, my mind often goes to someone with a clipboard and a Gantt chart just asking, are we on track? Are you done yet?
Chuckles. The project admin. The scorekeeper. No, this is absolutely not that role. In the FTTM model, the integrator is the managing body of the project. They're not just recording what happens, they are making it happen. Yes, they own the plan of record, the integrated master schedule, but they are also the main communication channel to the executive steering committee.
So they're the voice and face of the project to leadership.
They are. And they're the ones running interference, fighting off those interrupts we just talked about. Their key job is to ensure the team has the resources it needs and to drive what the research calls the fast decision-making mechanism. If the team gets stuck, if there's a debate, the integrator is the one who says, okay, we're making a decision in the next hour. They're a leader, not a secretary. They clear the road.
Okay, that makes sense. The integrator drives the process. What about role number 2? The system architect. This one sounds almost like building construction.
And in many ways it is. The system architect is the master planner. Their focus is the total product, the whole system. They are the champion of the big picture.
So they're the person who's there to stop that siloed thinking from creeping back in, even within the team.
That is their number 1 job. In a normal team, the software person will optimize the software. The hardware person optimizes the hardware. And very often, They'll make choices that are brilliant for their little piece, but that make life impossible for the other person. The system architect owns the interfaces between those pieces. They are the ones who make the critical trade-offs to optimize the whole system, not just sub-optimize the individual components.
Could you give us a concrete example of what that trade-off might look like?
Sure. A classic one is a laptop. The thermal engineer wants big fans and heat sinks to keep it cool.
Right.
The industrial designer wants it to be paper-thin and silent. Those two goals are in direct conflict.
So who wins?
In a slow team, they fight for weeks, they escalate to their VPs, and it's a political battle. In a fast team, the system architect steps in. They look at the target customer, the performance requirements, the cost targets, and they make the call. Okay, we're going with a slightly thicker design, but we're using a more efficient processor to reduce the heat load. They find the optimal balance for the customer, not for the engineering departments.
That is so critical. I've used so many products where you can just feel that the hardware and software teams never really talk to each other. It just feels clunky and disjointed.
That is a failure of system architecture. The architect's job is to prevent you from shipping a Frankenstein's monster of a product, where all the parts are technically working, but the whole thing has no soul.
Okay, and that brings us to role number 3, the chief engineer. How is that different from the system architect? They sound similar.
They are close partners, but with different focuses. The chief engineer is the engineering leader. While the architect is focused on the high-level system design and the trade-offs, the chief engineer is responsible for the technical execution. They live the details of the engineering work. They work hand in glove with the architect and the integrator to make sure that the elegant system design is actually technically feasible and can be delivered on schedule.
So if I were to summarize, the integrator is asking, are we going to be on time, Chris? The architect is asking, is this the right product that will work seamlessly? And the chief engineer is asking, how are we actually going to build this thing?
That's a perfect way to put it. The three of them form a leadership triad for the team. And of course, the research mentions other key roles we shouldn't forget, like the marketing leader, who they also call the customer integrator.
The voice of the customer.
Yes, but it's an active voice, not a passive one. In the old model, marketing would write a big requirements document, throw it over the wall to engineering, and then disappear until the launch party.
Right. Here's what the customer wants. Good luck.
In a core team, the customer integrator is embedded in the team day to day. They are constantly bringing in fresh customer feedback. They ensure the team not only knows what the customer values, but crucially, how much they're willing to pay for it. They prevent the engineers from gold-plating a feature that nobody actually wants. They are the constant reality check.
And the last one mentioned is the program sponsor.
Right, the executive champion, the tiebreaker, the person with the keys to the kingdom. When the core team hits a wall that they truly cannot get over on their own, maybe they need a surprise $1 million budget increase, or they need to poach an expert from a different division, the sponsor is the one who makes the executive level calls to make it happen. They're the team's air cover.
So we have the structure, we have the key players, but I know organizations aren't all the same. The research talks about an evolution, a kind of maturity model for teams. It references Wheelwright's 4 forms. I think this would be a really useful framework for anyone listening to sort of, diagnose their own company.
It is. It's a fantastic mental model. It's like a ladder. And the sad truth is that most companies are stuck on the bottom couple of rungs, even if they think they're higher up.
Let's climb that ladder. Level 1 is the most basic, the functional team.
This is, well, it's barely a team at all. There's no real project accountability. Work just gets passed from one functional silo to the next. If you're an engineer and you need something from marketing, you have to ask your manager, who then talks to the marketing manager, who then assigns it to someone.
The classic game of telephone through the hierarchy.
It is agonizingly slow.
Yeah.
Decisions can take weeks or months.
Yeah.
This is really the stone age of product development.
Okay, so then you move up a step to level 2, the lightweight team. The name lightweight doesn't exactly inspire confidence.
No, and for good reason. This is probably the most common form of team in large companies, and it's a trap. In a lightweight team, you do have a designated project leader. But, and there's a huge but, they have no real power. They're a coordinator, a facilitator, a nagger-in-chief. They can track schedules and call meetings, but they can't make budget decisions. They can't allocate resources. They can't tell a team member what to work on without going through their functional boss.
So it's the classic, all of the responsibility and none of the authority job. That sounds miserable.
It's one of the highest stress, lowest impact roles in a company. And a key point the research makes is that most companies think they have strong project teams, but when you really scratch the surface, what they have are these lightweight teams. The functional VPs still hold all the cards.
Which brings us up the ladder to level 3, the heavyweight team. This sounds more like the FTTM standard we've been talking about.
This is the goal for most critical projects. This is where you start to see real speed. In a heavyweight team, the project leader, our systems integrator, is described as a monarch or a general. They have real power. They have significant influence and control over resources, budget, and personnel.
A general. That word implies a clear chain of command for the project.
It implies loyalty. This is the defining characteristic. In a heavyweight team, the primary loyalty of the members shifts from their functional department to the project itself. When the general says, we need to march this way, the team marches. They don't have to go back and act with their functional boss first. The functional manager is still there for, career development and training, but the day-to-day work is directed by the project leader.
Okay, so that's the FTTM standard. But there's one more level. Level 4, the autonomous team.
This is the tiger team, the skunk works. This is for when you absolutely positively have to get something revolutionary done and fast. The best analogy the research uses is a Navy ship.
I really like this one. Can you walk us through it?
Sure. Think about a Navy destroyer that leaves port on a mission. The captain is in total command of that ship. Everyone on board, from the navigator to the cook to the weapons officer, reports directly to the captain. The radar operator doesn't radio back to the VP of Radar Operations at Shore Command to ask for permission to turn on the radar. They're a self-contained, autonomous unit built for a specific mission.
So it's the highest possible speed and focus.
The absolute highest. It's often used for those do-or-die breakthrough products. The first iPhone, for instance, was developed by a team that was very close to this model. It's not without risks, of course. You're disconnected from the mothership, so you might drift away from the corporate strategy. But for pure speed, it's unmatched.
So if we want to be fast, we need to be operating as heavyweight or even an autonomous team. But the structure alone isn't everything. You can have the structure, but if the team isn't actually allowed to make decisions, it's all for nothing. This brings up the freedom scale in the research.
Yes, this is so insightful. The research breaks down a team's decision-making freedom into 5 distinct levels. And this is a great diagnostic for anyone listening. Just think about your team and ask honestly, what level do you operate at?
And the scale is sort of inverted, right? Level 5 is the lowest level of freedom.
That's right. Level 5 is ask what to do. The team is completely passive. They just sit and wait for management to give them an explicit order. One step up from that is level 4, which is wait until told. It's still passive, but it implies there's a plan somewhere they're waiting on.
That sounds more like an assembly line than an innovation team.
And yet, that is how so many so-called teams operate. They are paralyzed by a fear of making a mistake, so they do nothing until they're given explicit instructions. This is the definition of slow.
So what about the fast teams? Where do they live on this scale?
Fast teams live at the other end, at level 2 and level 1. Level 2 is act, but advise at once. This is a great place to be. You see a problem or an opportunity, you make a decision, you take action, and you immediately let leadership know what you did. You don't ask for permission, you ask for forgiveness later if needed.
And the highest level, level 1.
Level 1 is act, routine reporting only. This is true empowerment. The team just does what needs to be done, and leadership finds out about it in the weekly status report. There's a huge amount of trust there.
The key word in both of those is act. You can't possibly have a fast team if every little decision has to go up the chain for approval.
It just creates a massive bottleneck at the top. If every choice, can we buy this $10,000 piece of test equipment? Can we change the color of this button? Can we hire a contractor for 3 weeks? If that all has to be approved by a vice president, then that VP becomes the single biggest constraint on the project's speed. FTTM teams push decision-making down to the lowest possible level, to the people who are closest to the information.
I want to play devil's advocate for a moment here. We've laid out this picture of 100% dedication, of co-location, of empowering teams to act and spend money. To a traditional manager, this might sound like chaos. It sounds expensive. Why would a company go through all this trouble? Why dismantle the functional silos that have been the bedrock of management for a century?
It's a fair question. And the answer is simple. And it's found in the economics of speed. It all comes down to a concept called the cost of delay.
Right. The idea of pay to save a day.
That is the mantra. And fast teams don't just understand this at a management level. They understand it down at the individual contributor level.
Can you break that down for us? What does it really cost to be late? Because I think a lot of people just view a schedule slip as an annoyance, not as a 5-alarm financial fire.
It is a massive financial crisis,
Yeah.
and it's almost always underestimated. The cost of being a month late isn't just one extra month of the development team's salaries out. That's trivial. That's peanuts. The real cost is the missed market window.
The window of opportunity to make the most profit.
Exactly. If you're launching a new smartphone and you're 6 months late to market, you haven't just lost 6 months of potential sales. That's the obvious part. The killer is that you have likely missed the premium pricing window. By the time your product arrives, your competitors have been out there for half a year, and prices have already started to fall.
So your profit margin on every single unit you sell is crushed from day one.
Crushed. Significantly.
Yeah.
The research is very clear on this. Being late to market erodes total lifecycle profits far more than overspending on the development budget. A 10% schedule slip can wipe out 30% of a product's potential profit, but a 10% budget overrun might only reduce it by a couple of points.
So let's make that real. If I have the option to spend an extra, say, $20,000 to expedite some prototypes from a supplier, and doing so will save us a week on the schedule, that's a good deal.
Let's do the math. If your product is projected to generate, say, $50,000 a day in profit once it launches, then a week of delay costs you $350,000 in lost profit. So would you spend $20,000 to save $350,000? It's a no-brainer. It's a fantastic investment. But you can only make that smart decision if you understand the economics. If all you see is the line item on the expense report, the 20 grand looks like waste. If you see the impact on the P&L, it looks like a stroke of genius.
This all seems to circle back to a really fundamental mindset shift about what efficiency even means.
It's the core of the whole thing. It's the battle between flow efficiency and resource efficiency. Most traditional companies are obsessed with resource efficiency. They want every single person, every machine to be 100% utilized at all times. So they load up their engineers with 15 projects. It's like a freeway at rush hour. You could say it's 100% utilized. There's a car on every single square foot of asphalt.
But nobody is moving. It's a parking lot. It's the least efficient system imaginable for getting from point A to point B.
Exactly. Everyone is busy, but nothing is getting through the system.
Yeah.
FTTM flips that entirely. It optimizes for flow efficiency. We want the project to move through the system as fast as possible, even if that means some of our resources, our people, are occasionally idle. It's better to have an engineer waiting for a part for a day than have the entire project wait for that engineer for a week because they were busy on something else.
That is a profound shift, and it must be really uncomfortable for old school managers to walk by an engineer's desk and see them reading a technical journal for an hour because they're waiting for a test to finish.
It drives them crazy because it looks like waste. It looks like inefficiency. But if that engineer is ready to jump on those test results the second they're available, the project keeps moving at top speed. That's the goal. We're optimizing the speed of the car, not the fullness of the highway.
Wow. So let's try to pull this all together. We've covered a tremendous amount of ground here. We've gone from the illusion of the normal team, this multiplexed, siloed, over-the-wall mess, to this high-octane, dedicated machine called the integrated core team.
I think if you had to boil it down, the definition of a true core team is pretty simple, but it's also very strict. It's a small group, maybe 5 to 7 people at the core, who view the project as if it were their own small business. They are dedicated, they are co-located, and they are empowered to act.
And they're built around those critical roles, the integrator, the architect, the chief engineer, who are all working in harmony to drive the product forward, not just protect their own function.
And crucially, they operate in a system where speed is valued financially, not just as a buzzword. They know the cost of delay, and so they act with a sense of urgency that you just don't find in those other models.
It's not just a memo from the CEO saying we need to go faster. It's a deep shared understanding of why going faster is the key to winning.
Precisely. It transforms product development from this slow, bureaucratic, administrative process into a genuine competitive weapon for the business.
This has been a fantastic deep dive. I feel like I need to go back and audit my own calendar now and figure out how many of these teams I'm on are actually just silos in disguise.
It's a healthy exercise. A little organizational self-awareness can go a long way.
Before we close out, I just want to leave our listeners with one final thought to mull over. If you think about the most critical project in your organization right now, can you name the system architect? Is there one person who is responsible for the integrity of the whole system? And if you can't name that person, it's worth asking, who is? Who's making sure all the pieces actually fit together? Something to think about.
That is the multi-million-dollar question right there.
Thanks for listening. Make sure to tune in next week where we will dive deeper into key practices of FTTM teams.